We got Ironheart that came out this week. We had 3 episodes. We're recording this right before the finale, 3 episodes. So we're going to talk about the finale next week. As we dig into this, Thomas, you're going to take the lead on this one, but then we're going to kind of speculate where we think the story might go. And you listeners, very good chance already know the answer. So we might make a fool of ourselves and make sure you yell at us on social media. We love that. So, Thomas, what did you think about this show?
I'm too sensitive.
I'll talk to you guys at Thomas.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys know now too. I haven't seen him yet. So feel free to spoil everything. I put it on this morning, but yeah, have not been able to watch it.
That is fair, because that seems to be the consensus for a lot of people online. That's why we do the dirty work, so other people don't have to. You know what? I will say this. We talked about it in depth on Challenge Accepted. I like the way that this connected from Wakanda Forever into the show. I thought it was smart. I thought it works. People have been quick to point out they don't like her character because the way she starts off, she doesn't have money. She is doing all these scams to basically pay for her suits, her inventions, everything. People didn't like it. All right, that's fair enough. If you take all that away, I think that there are a lot of similarities between her and Tony Stark. And I think that some people are bringing their own personal bias maybe to it, but I do think there's some similarities there. Now, that doesn't excuse the story. Now, I think just because Dominique Thorne, I think, is doing a good job doesn't mean I necessarily love her character. Doesn't necessarily mean I love the story either. It's okay. And this definitely feels like it's old Marvel when it was Chapek involved before Iger came back. This feels like a movie that was split into 6 parts for me, because where the episode ends, it's like, what? That's the ending of this episode? Okay, good thing there's another one. So it's a little funky. Things are overly convenient in the story. It feels off. It feels weird. But what I do give it credit for is that the CGI does look incredible. It is adding a level of depth to Riri Williams that wasn't there in Wakanda Forever. And we're seeing some new cool settings. Like we're in Chicago, which is a new place that the MCU hasn't touched yet. And it looks badass to see the Iron Man suit flying around there. But is it great? Not for me. I think it's just okay. I think it could potentially get a lot better with the last 3 episodes, but it's not amazing for me yet. It's kind of just sitting at the middle of the pack. What about you, Frank?
One of the key problems I have with this show is the performances. I mean, we have a lot of people that we know that are kind of lauding these performances. I would say it boils down to 2. Dominique Thorne and Anthony Ramos do wonderful jobs. They are definitely worthy of the leading roles for these. Dominique Thorne feels like a character that's truly going up and down, but driven by such passion and desire and just gumption, right, for lack of a better term, that she will make this world hers. On the other side of that, Anthony Ramos feels like he's slick, cool, and just one step ahead of the devil, and frankly, very much is. And so that character, I think, I'm like, oh man, give me more Hood. I hope I get to see some spin-offs with him. I hope I get to see this guy going against Doctor Strange at some point. Whatever, he's a very fun character. But yeah, so I think the performances are basically those, but the rest of the cast just don't feel believable to me. They don't feel like real characters that I would see every day. And I think this comes down to the idea of Disney just trying to make something for the kids, but it's like not kids writing it, so they don't know, like, hey, they still say cool and tight, right? That's what it kind of feels like to me.
Yeah.
And just missteps all over the place with the performances.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, man, the Hood is so cool though. Like I agree with you big time. You know, like when he got announced, like everybody was like, "Oh my god, the Hood! This is so cool!" Because he is this character where you're like not really supposed to like him. Like we talked about earlier, where what's his name? Something Drake from the Uncharted series is a little bit messy. He's not like like he doesn't perfectly land everything, and that's kind of the Hood in the comics. Like he's badass, but he's not like Spider-Man. He's not like the Punisher or Hawkeye, who's an expert marksman. He's just like a dude that got, who stole a magical hood and then got these insane powers. And so he's a little bit messy too. But Anthony Ramos plays him so smooth and so cool and like with such swag. So yeah, they're carrying the show. But you're right. Everybody else just feels a little bit like what? Like, what is this dialogue? Like, what are we doing here? Like, I also like, I don't even understand the plot sometimes. Like, they're like, we got to break into this and do this and whatever. And I'm like, wait, what's the plan? I don't get it.
Why are you doing that? That happened a couple times. Like, why is everybody in this room doing these things? And it feels like there are so many scenes that are thrown in for, like you were saying before, comes from the Chapek era. So there's like, hey, we just need to have this much hours of view time. And it's like, that's not how things are supposed to be working for Marvel. And so there are a lot of times where like you could cut that scene out because it doesn't move the story forward, and that scene too. So many times that happens.
Right.
And then like the I think the episode three's heist scene or heist structure, frankly, heist structure. Oh, editor Frank, I fucking love you. I think I think episode three's heist is by far the best part of it. It should have been what the entire series was based around, as a series of heists, and then like confrontation amongst the three. But unfortunately, at the end of episode three, right away, like, okay, the heists are probably not going to work anymore because of the events of that episode. So it's like, shit, that's the part you guys should have focused on, and you guys didn't do it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, there is 3 heists, right? There's a heist in the first episode, but it's like, wait, why can they just, it's like when everybody can just fight, without a reason. You're like, why?
Yes.
It's just like overly convenient. Like what Daredevil did really good in Born Again was like, even though they weren't like the best fighters, like it felt real. Like when the cops try to beat up Matt, it felt like very real and visceral. Like this feels like stage fighting. This feels like all of a sudden everybody's like Shang-Chi. And you're like, wait, what? Yeah. And then the episode 2 heights was cool in theory. Still had no idea what they were doing till the end. And then episode 3 was finally like, this kind of makes sense. And then you brought up a really good point because it's tying it.
Yeah, some future looking. For those who are listening right now that have already seen the show, let us know how wrong we are. But go ahead and get into my magic theory that I think is going to be the best one.
I think you're super on track from what I could tell. Again, we're talking from the past. So if you're like, this doesn't happen, well, you have knowledge that we don't have yet. But anyways, like you said, what they're trying to do by getting these contracts signed is not to get money. It's not to get stake in these companies or anything. It is Mephisto collecting souls. And I was like, whoa, that's such a cool concept. And then what gives me, I guess, evidence or credence towards this is in episode 3, when we see what happens to his cousin, the Hood's cousin. He comes back and he's all in this rage and he throws the Hood, and then like lightning strobes and the red glow comes on. You feel Mephisto there, right? And so, yeah, I think the Mephisto of it all is like really, really cool. And I think that's a cool concept.
Yeah, the key idea is that there's been so many times throughout these heists and things like that where they've been offered just straight up cash. Here's money, here's a check. And he's like, no, I want you to sign a contract that I own part of your business. And it's like, that doesn't make sense for this gang. The only thing that makes sense is if you're out to collect the contract part. And that's because you want signatures for Mephisto, which means that the Hood is out or are playing, I guess, his own crew. Like he's not even letting his crew in on the plans. So, they're going to turn on him at some point too, which makes sense for what the show is. It's probably going to be a thing where like, Ironheart has her crew now, type of thing like that. Like you could kind of feel like that's what this is going. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't even thought about like where the crew goes after this. And I think that's the sad part too. It's like, I don't necessarily care. Yeah, like I don't. I'm like, like I'm sure they're all good actors, but they're not really like, even the other guy who we find out is Ezekiel Stane, who, Obadiah Stane's son. He plays it so weird. Alden Ehrenreich, who played Solo from Star Wars, or from the Solo movie in Star Wars, which was a decent movie. But man, I do not get his character either. I don't know why he's doing what he's doing. Like, why does he have all this crazy tech? Like I know they showed us, and it kind of, I guess they maybe explained it. I still doesn't make sense to me. He's just a weird character. So.
Weird character. I feel like he's forced in there to tie to Tony Stark more. To try to give that whole idea to try to save it somehow. But frankly, we don't care. And I do believe that by episode 5, he's a villain, not the villain, a villain, and will be a very throwaway character. Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, definitely. There's
Do you think this would have done better if it was just pushed together into one movie?
Yes.
Or is it okay? Because it sounds like the pacing and stuff would just make more sense if it was all laid out at once. But still, it sounds like the writing, it's too many plot holes and filler and stuff that just doesn't jive very well either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe some of that was put in to help break it into episodes. I don't know.
That's, I think, the problem is that they probably added stuff, or what would have normally been left on the cutting room floor. They added stuff to make up the episode count. Because
Okay.
we got to be honest, like there's a reason that Disney's releasing this thing in 2 chunks of 3. They want it out the damn door. They don't have the faith in this thing. They've changed how they do things. This was filmed and written and stuff like that like years ago. So it's all these things that are just like, this is such a throwaway project that it sucks, because there's some real great characters here that deserve their time in the sun. They're not going to get it. This will be aired and forgotten about as fast as possible. It'll go to the ways of Acolyte, where there's still people today who are like, oh, bring back Star Wars Acolyte. No, dude, it is dead. They didn't even use a tombstone on that grave. It's gone. It's not coming back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
At least
we'll
they're
see
trying,
more
though.
Riri.
We've talked about how we want to see some original kind of one-off characters that are less
Yeah.
known and stuff like that. So at least they're trying. It's just a swing and a miss.
Yes. I think that's such a good point. But I also feel like you can't do that at the expense of your biggest characters, right? Like
yeah.
even Hulk, the way Hulk was used in She-Hulk was kind of, maybe this is dramatic to say, but it was kind of disrespectful to his character. Like
Okay.
he was just the punching bag to move her along. And it's like the legacy. One thing, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with this because I do like Riri as a character, but people are cutting her at the beginning. She does this little monologue saying like, oh, do you think Tony Stark would be Tony Stark if he wasn't a billionaire? And people are destroying that online because they're using the clip of him. He built all this in a cave with a box of scraps, and like, I mean, he did. He built the first Mark I in a cave with like just things he figured out. He built his own arc reactor out of spare parts. So it's like, yeah, it seems disrespectful.
He did have billionaires' money putting him through like schools, right? Didn't he go to?
True.
Okay.
Yeah. He did. He did.
I'm sure
Right.
he was like naturally bright, but he also wasn't like a natural born genius, right? He did have to go like to school and stuff.
Like, but there's nothing, you can't say he's not Tony Stark without the money, but you
Yeah.
also can't say he's not
Right.
Tony Stark without all the intelligence.
Yeah.
And
He's also
his
not Tony
genius of
Stark
intellect.
without the experiences like being in the cave, because
It's
you
true.
see he would have been a major douche,
True.
if he didn't go through that kind of trauma.
I like to
Yeah.
throw out there too, Howard Stark was also a genius of his age. So it is definitely genetics.
Yeah.
So I get the people that are like frustrated with that portrayal. They are right in so many ways. And it's like the comic book reviews would never fucking say that. But this TV show one, because you guys are trying to make her edgy and cool and Gen Z, you botched it. And you forgot that you're making movies for comic book readers sometimes. And you just messed up. And if you guys don't own that shit, fine. Ironheart will never be seen again, and it's your guys' fault because you guys can't follow the simple tea leaves that say comic book people like the fucking comic book stories. Bruce Wayne's mom and dad got shot in an alley. They're not, dancing in Hawaii somewhere. Just tell the story like it already is. It's just, frankly, it's irritating having to defend shows that are good, but they don't deserve the time of the comic book readers because Chapek, as we've said already, did this time and time again. He would think he knows best. And it's like, that's not what you bought. You bought stories. Use the damn stories, not character names.
I know. Yeah, definitely. I also feel like anytime Marvel, at least Marvel Studios, when a Marvel Studios project insults the Marvel fans, it feels off. And like, again, I'm not trying to bring it up because I really, really, really wanted to like She-Hulk. And there's parts of it where I'm like, wow, that's a really cool idea. But that show was kind of insulting Marvel fans, people who watch the movies, and they were like trying to turn us into the joke. And that kind of line, insulting Tony Stark, is insulting the Marvel fans. So it's like, it is a weird choice.
With She-Hulk though, like it almost is in line with her character. So it's like where she like breaks the fourth wall, that she's joking with us, kind of tongue in cheek. But this character doesn't feel that way as much because it's not how she would be in the comic book at all. Like,
It's not her character. Right.
Riri is very much about her community and stuff like that. And so to see her just jump into heists and stuff doesn't make sense. We're beating a dead horse at this point, but it's too
Yeah. I'm curious to see how it ends because I've heard that the second part of this is way better than the first part.
That's what I hear too.
So it could be, we could be eating our words, but and I think there's so much that they could do with this. Truthfully, I think we will see Riri again. I think we see the Hood for sure because anybody who is writing for this show, like not writing, but riding hard for it, like in a car, I think enjoys the hood.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. What would be your score out of 10 for the first 3 episodes of Ironheart? I know we didn't do that on Challenge Accepted, but
Oh,
do you have one yet?
I mean, yeah, because it would be in between a 2 and a 3, but we don't do like 0.5s on that. Or I mean,
Yeah.
we don't do like percentage points per se besides 5. So I'm gonna give it a 3. With it caveat, it would be between a 2.5 and a 3 for me.
Okay, so probably like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna go 6 out of 10.
I'm a 6 out of 10 as well, slipping towards 5. But
Yeah.
I look forward to being corrected. So
Yes.
that'll be good. Yeah.